We have the feature prelim of the night. We have Trevin Giles for facing off against Carlos Prates. Trevin Giles, 16-5. He is 2-3 in his last five. Coming off of that submission loss against Gabriel Bonfim, uh, the Bonferrad. Um,
Um,
yeah, that's not a good look. Uh, Carlos, the Nightmares, 17-6. He's 5-0 in his last five. He's coming off of that Dana White Contender Series victory with a KO victory. So that's why he's getting that shot right here at Trevin Giles. Let's look at the odds for this fight right here. So Trevin Giles, um, Carlos is actually a minus 260, and he opened up at a minus 160. So people have been fading the Trevin Giles train for the last month or so since this fight was made. Um, Alex, I'll let you start off with this fight. What do you think about this kind of UFC debut versus a quote unquote veteran in the UFC?
yeah. So this is like another fight where it looks like I'm going against the sharps in a sense. I personally don't like Carlos Prates's fighting style. He keeps his hands like very low,
Yeah,
while also leaning his head forward. So it's just a very awkward fighting style to as a viewer to look at. I don't think it's a great style. What I will say though, he has great leg kicks, stiff jabs, hooks, and knees to the body. So he definitely hits very hard. But I'm not willing to lay this type of juice on Prates at those odds that you mentioned. I think for Trevin Giles, I think his game plan should for this fight should absolutely be like grapple heavy. I think that's going to be his key to victory. Um, in Protez's contender Dana White contender series fight against Mitch Ramirez, Mitch actually secured a very, very easy takedown in the first round. Um, I think Giles should do something, similar. Um, I think, what I'm looking at and what I put a small bet on is plus 1,000 for Trevin Giles submission victory. Um, I think, as I said, he should have a grapple heavy game plan. Trevin Giles has five submission victories, although they were all very early on in his career. Uh, my concerns. So I'm not necessarily picking a side. Well, I guess I am picking a side. I'm picking a submission victory. I think it's plus EV, but the concerns for Giles is that he does get cracked. I can easily see a KO victory for Prates here. Um, yeah, it's a lot of different outcomes, in my opinion. So, that's why I think at plus 1,000, it's, decent value in my opinion. So I put a small bet on that.
yeah, not a bad moonshot right there. Giles, I mean, he's just a kind of a hard fighter to predict, right? I feel like he's low volume, but he has a nice jab. So one would think that why not pop that jab a little bit more, right? Why does this guy stay so low volume when he does have a nice jab? He moves around the cage pretty well. I think he counters well, but just really low volume. I don't like to see that when I look at Trevin Giles. He has been KO'd two times in the UFC, and two of those five losses are KOs in the UFC. So, like you mentioned, he does get cracked. Now, his grappling actually, he does do a good job at mixing in his takedowns. He has a decent 71% takedown defense as well. He has been sub three times in the UFC though, so three of his five losses are by sub. So Trevin Giles, basically, I mean, he does seem to get finished, right? And I feel like that's that's the hesitancy right here. I mean, Carlos, Muay Thai kickboxer. If you look at this guy, he has Muay Thai tattooed across his chest. So this guy's all about that stand up action, legit power in his shots. 12 KO wins in his career. 12 of 17 wins are by KO. So this guy's straight up trying to knock people out and kill them. Long straight shots, uses his reach and range well. He will be the taller fighter here and the longer fighter in terms of reach by 4 inches. Uses the kicks really well. I mean, he's able to attack all three levels with his kicks, keeps his hands low, like you mentioned, so he can definitely just get popped in the face by that jab. I can see Trevin trying to do that. He doesn't have much grappling, but from what I've seen, he does have decent takedown defense. He has been sub 3 times in his career, though. However, all three of those times for Carlos was 10 years ago. So I'm assuming that either he hasn't fought the right competition or he's shorted up, but he has been subbed in 3 and 10 years. Um, I think that Carlos will out volume Giles over the course of the fight. His shots will just have the higher impact, and Giles may resort to grappling if his jab does not stop the onslaught. I think that Giles will have to fight through the range of Carlos, and with just a jab and his inconsistent low volume approach, I just feel like he'll have to weather a too violent of a storm to get there. So I do agree in your sense that I think that Giles, if wins this, he needs to do the grappling as well because I don't think he's gonna be able to outstrike this guy on the feet just because of how powerful this guy is. And yeah, I'm predicting Carlos by KO, but another UFC debut. So get me out of here. I'm holding off on this. I'm just gonna watch the fight and see what happens there. But I do like that moonshot play though, man. I mean, plus 1,000 for a sub, not bad. This guy could face some grappling that he hasn't seen in 10 years. So we'll see what happens.